be honest with you, I just don't know if there's anything the writers can do to make up for it, for what happened, but I let's just get into it. Hi, I'm Dustin Benzel, and welcome to another Pokemon XY anime discussion. Welcome to my big review of 69 and 70, Goodra's release. Episodes, I should say. Um, don't get alarmed by what I mean. I'll still watch Pokemon XY. I'm looking for the future, as you've seen in a lot of my videos, but just this kind of took a lot of energy out of me. Just the fact that it actually happened. I mean, I know it was basically guaranteed and other before it actually aired, so there was really no surprise here that Goodra was released and everything, but just the fact that it actually happened, that it actually did happen, is probably going to be the biggest problem that XY is ever going to have. Just to let you know, there has been a title revealed, and it's about Shota and Trico and Ash, and there's going to be a series of 3 1-versus-1 matches potentially based on the wording of the title, but I don't have time to get into that. Also, just as a side note, I'm going to hold off on my reflections of Generation so far. I was hoping they would have revealed the Noibat episode along with the Shota episode, but it seems they want to keep that just under wraps for a little bit longer. So I'm just going to give it one more additional week. So by next time, around this time, probably around Saturdays when I'll probably record the video, not in a few days or tomorrow or whenever this is uploaded, not then, but the following week after that is when I will do my reflections of Generation so far. But what I really want is I want that title to be revealed. If it doesn't happen, then I'll just continue on. Anyway, this is not about that. This is about 69 and 70. First off, okay, I might as well just give you a synopsis, a very, very brief synopsis. Um, Ash, there was lunchtime. Some guy named Kenzo appeared with a Bellsprout that knew Goodra when it was a Goomy. They went to the wetlands. There was a fight, and then there was a big fight between Florges and Goodra. Goodra learned Ice Beam. And then Team Rocket, well, we didn't actually see them commanding, but we know it was them. Team Rocket commanded their Pokemon to attack Goodra. Goodra fell over. Ash, or Kenzo and everything was trying to heal them. And then in one of the coolest action scenes ever that I've seen in Pokemon, Pikachu, Dedenne, Wooper are captured. Ash runs out, and then we get that usually the art style that we get at the end of an episode where it looks like an drawing basically, and it's a still frame. Then the next episode, it picks up right where it left off. Ash sends out Frogadier and Fletchinder, and then, but unfortunately they get distracted. Goodra manages to come about during all this. So then Team Rocket, Clement in the previous episode figure out that it was Team Rocket that did everything. Then Goodra, Ash, Serena, Clement, and Bonnie go after Pikachu. Clement and Serena run interference for Ash, Goodra, and Bonnie. There's a little discussion, realization what's happening inside this cave-ish area. Then Team Rocket reveals what a bunch of jerks they are, basically. And then they get out of their ship. Ash, Florges, and Goodra get onto the ship to try to rescue Pikachu, Dedenne, and whatever. Everything turns out okay. Florges and Goodra get along. The wetlands are pretty much ruined. Goodra uses Rain Dance to restore the balance, and Florges uses some sort of grassy terrain or something of that nature. I think it's grassy terrain to bring the plants and to restore order to the wetlands. Then Ash decides to let Goodra be released, and there's a big emotional scene, and they go their separate ways. And that's pretty much the 2 episodes, basically, as a very quick synopsis. So let's get into the episodes in depth or whatever, but first I want to address some of the situation or some of the concerns that other people have within the episode. A lot of people especially don't like the second episode because of Team Rocket, and probably if this was any other type of episodes, if it was any other type of episode, I might be willing to agree. However, unfortunately for me, Team Rocket were actually necessary in this episode. They may be the tired, uh, villainous, antagonistic forces that we have to deal with in almost every single episode, and it's so annoying to see them. But in this particular episode, it made sense. There have been two sides of or two suggestions. What if it was just no antagonistic force? What if it was just bad Pokemon being bad Pokemon? In that instance, I would have to disagree. There had to be some antagonistic force that could be resolved, and unfortunately, it wasn't going to be resolved by just Florges and Florges' army attacking the Pokemon and then having Goodra resolve it in some fashion or another. There was never going to be any resolution if it was just the Pokemon themselves. So having Team Rocket was the catalyst that resulted in the conclusion we had. Now, and other people said, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be Team Rocket, it could just be another villainous force. Unfortunately, if it had been another villainous force, another villainous team, a poacher, or anything of that nature, the way that the episode was written, having a different antagonistic force outside of Team Rocket wouldn't have made any sense. It would have had a conclusion, but it would have been a incomplete conclusion, and it would have been like, what? Team Rocket, see, the thing that people don't seem to get is that sure, Team Rocket are annoying. They don't need to be shoved in every episode, and maybe the writers and executive producers need to stop relying on them. However, the thing is, Team Rocket are an antagonistic force that we do know. We know how manipulative they can be. We have seen this with Grumpig and other instances where they have manipulated in their favor. There was Grumpig, then it was the electric Pokemon when Luxio evolved. We know Team Rocket. We know how manipulative they can be. So having them manipulate Florges and doing what they want for their own end goal, and then having that be resolved by Florges and Goodra combining forces against Team Rocket and then eventually settling their differences actually made it make sense. If it was just another poacher or an antagonistic force, there's not going to be any reason to care. Team Rocket, you at least cared because at the very least you hate Team Rocket. You don't want to deal with them. If it was just any other antagonistic force, it just wouldn't fit very well. It's like, well, yeah, he is a poacher or she is some antagonistic force. It's Team Flare or whatever, but why should we care? I mean, Floor just fell for it, you know? I mean, we don't know enough of that antagonistic force to say that this is something usual, and from my perspective, having any other antagonistic force outside of Team Rocket would have just been more shoehorned in than actually Team Rocket, because the writers and executive producers at least have access to Team Rocket. We know Team Rocket. We know what they're capable of. We don't know anything about any separate entity, another antagonistic force unrelated to Team Rocket. So it just wouldn't mean as much. It wouldn't have the same impact. Why would people care to hate this antagonistic force just on one episode? I mean, we don't like it. This antagonistic force is causing all this trouble, but the executive producers must have realized that if they had used Team Rocket, it would have invoked more anger and more rage, even if it was a negative aspect. Not hating this antagonistic force from doing this thing, but because it was Team Rocket, we hated them for actually being in the episode, hypothetically speaking, and therefore that's why it worked with Team Rocket. You know, and it wouldn't have been the same if it was any other antagonistic force. If it was some poacher, if it was Hunter J, what would have been the point? I mean, it would have been like, well, I don't mean Hunter J exactly, but I mean just like Hunter J. So Hunter L, I guess. Who cares if it's Hunter L? Are we gonna have the same feelings of Ash? You gotta stop Hunter L from doing this. Goodra, use Ice Beam. Get together, Florges. Are we really going to have that much of a response if the antagonistic force was completely someone different? Or does Team Rocket make sense because it invoked a lot more because we're used to Team Rocket and a lot of people hate Team Rocket and they don't want Team Rocket to be shoehorned in every single episode, and therefore it brought out a bigger reaction and a bigger response. So that's why I had no problem with Team Rocket, because quite frankly that was not the thing to focus on. It really wasn't. If you think that the episode suffered simply because the writers used Team Rocket, something that the audiences know, the audiences can hate, possibly by overusing them and invoking that negative reaction, well, then I think you kind of missed the bigger picture here, you know? And that's the way I felt. Team Rocket was fine in this episode. I mean, because quite frankly, honestly, it didn't matter, you know? I mean, it could have been anything else, but at least this had a conclusion that had some sort of nice, tight bow on it. And, you know, it's like, here it is, you know, and it concluded in that fashion. And that was perfectly fine from I guess, an objective, non-biased perspective. That was actually fine. But overall, even if you were to hate Team Rocket and didn't want them episode, they were inconsequential to the actual meaning behind the episodes. They made it so that there was a resolution, but at the same time, regardless if it was Team Rocket, a different antagonistic force, or just the Pokemon themselves, the point would have been Goodra would have been released. And I think that's what people need to focus on. Goodra's release. Not Team Rocket being in the episode, not Team Rocket being the antagonistic force that resolved everything for all the characters. But we need to focus on the bigger picture here, and that's the fact that Goodra was released. Now, there was no indication of whether or not Goodra is actually going to come back or not, but I just, for me, I don't think it really matters at this particular point if Goodra were to come back, because of the fact that the writers even came up with this storyline to release Goodra and get rid of it. It just, at this particular point, I feel like having Goodra come back would be the writers realizing they made a mistake, but it's too late to fix it. Which is why I said in the very, very beginning of this video, I just don't think there's any way that the writers and executive producers can do to fix the series, because a little bit will always have that Goodra release, and it'll always have that negative aspect, and it's not something that they can just erase. It doesn't matter if Ash gets Phantump and a bunch of other Pokemon and fully evolves his team and wins the Pokemon League at this particular point. I just don't care. I'll watch it. I'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy what it is that it has to offer me, but I'm not going to thoroughly enjoy the XY series as much as I would have if Goodra was not released, or if Goodra was released at a much better point in time. Not 15 episodes after its capture. Not for it to only be captured and fully evolved primarily just so Ash can get his 5th badge. Not like that. Which is why my problem with these episodes is not because of Team Rocket, but the fact that these storylines existed in the first place, you know? Going back to the hypothetical scenario that it was a poacher. Well, unfortunately, if it was a poacher and Poacher was doing all this, then maybe there would have been a higher chance of Ash keeping Goodra. But the way that these episodes were written, I honestly don't think that would have been the case. The episodes would have been written a little bit different. Because, you know, it was primarily Ash that saw Goodra having fun with its friends and deciding that it would be better off just in the wetlands with its friends so it doesn't leave because of all the time that happened. And it just calls back to when Gumi first came about and all that backstory, and I just hate that it resulted in all of this. I mean, it made sense for a development story for a Pokemon. I guess it was fine. You know, maybe I'm just being a little bit bitter because Ash finally had a really cool Pokemon, and you know, and then they just release it just because, you know, Goodra's being captured had no meaning whatsoever, you know, and it just doesn't work for me that the writers would actually do this, that they would create the storyline just to get rid of Goodra, that it just, why have Ash captured Goodra in the first place? I mean, I don't care about the 5th gym. I don't care if it was supposed to be some exciting, electrifying. There were some problems with it, but that's because the writers refused to give Goodra a better moveset. I mean, Bide? Really? Let's look at Gumi's moveset. Now, I know Gumi can actually learn Dragon Breath naturally, but let's assume that it wasn't that the case. What if Gumi had a different specially ranged attack or whatever based on the appearance of Bide? Bide, I believe, is a status move or something of that nature, so maybe it couldn't have quite have been. See, if I'm not mistaken, Bide is a physical attack, so it being like Hyper Beam is a little weird. But here are just some of the other moves that it could have been. It could have been Tackle, maybe. I don't know. Okay, maybe. Okay, let's just focus on the ranged attacks. It could have been Bubble. It could have been Absorb. Could have been even Muddy Water, or even Dragon Pulse and Dragon Breath. They can actually, Gumi can learn those moves, you know? Other moves, it could have been Hidden Power would have made more sense, you know? But I guess they wanted to capitalize on uh, Goodra, Goodra enduring attacks and then dealing the damage back. But again, there are a bunch of other moves that Gumi could have learned. You know, it can even learn Shockwave by Move Tutor in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Even if that would have been a little bit weird, but you know, there are all these Water Pulse. Well, okay, maybe not Water Pulse. It could learn Water Pulse by Move Tutor, but okay, maybe not Water Pulse, but you know, Muddy Water. You know, there were just so many other moves, and they chose Bide. And then it only learned Dragon Breath by evolving into Slugoo. And then when Slugoo evolved, it replaced Dragon Breath that we didn't even actually get to see except one episode at best. Maybe two. Maybe Dragon Breath. Oh yeah, Dragon Breath probably was used in... so 2 episodes, Dragon Breath, and then primarily Dragon Pulse, you know. And, you know, it's like, well, yeah, Goodra was a cool Pokemon, you know, have it be caught by Ash, you know, so it could give the, but otherwise I really wouldn't have cared. You know, like I said, the move set is what crippled the 5th gem anyway because it finished off with the Bide. If it finished off with Dragon Pulse, if it used Bide to stop Luxray and then Ash followed it up with a Dragon Pulse, maybe the episode gym battle would have been a little bit better than it was, but It was a great gym battle, don't get me wrong. It's just that it wasn't as best as it could be. So I don't know what the writers, executive producers were thinking. I mean, they weren't going to give Goodra a decent moveset to begin with, because I guess why not? It was just going to be released a few episodes after the gym battle anyway. But that's my problem. No Pokemon should be caught for one instance only, and that's the case here with Goodra. Goodra was only gotten just so Ash could win his 5th badge. And what does that exactly say? You know, Clement was too strong for Ash, that there would have been no other way Ash would have won, even if he brought back Charizard or Sceptile or even Torterra, maybe, possibly. I'm sure Torterra would have probably done very well against Luxray, even though it didn't do very much in the Sinnoh region. But, you know, like, what? Goodra, it had to have been Goodra? You know, I mean, honestly, I think Tyrant probably would have been better, and then it would have maybe would have only had to evolve once, so that maybe Ash would have been able to keep Tyrant, you know, or possibly release it, because why not? But the problem is giving Ash a Pokemon that's just going to be released after so many episodes, you know, like I said, the best time to release a Pokemon is after the league and before the next generation. If you want that Pokemon to have a different ending, I guess, than just being at Professor Oak's, and that's when you do it. You don't do it after its only main purpose for being on the series in the first place, and that's after the gym battle. So that's why these episodes should have never been existed in the first place. They could have come up with any different backstory for Goodra, but they did not have to have it so that when it returns, Ash wants it to go and be with its friends again, because it was only separated because of all this warring that happened between the wild Pokemon over a stupid healing water thingy or whatever. You know, I just... I know it was from the beginning, but the problem is that the writers and executive producers wrote that story for Gumi just as an excuse to get rid of it in the future. The way that I see Gumi and the way that they showed everything in the beginning of Gumi's capture was that Ash was never going to keep Goodra. Ash was never going to keep Gumi, Sagu, Goodra on the team. It was always going to be a Pokemon that was captured, fully evolved, help beat or help Ash earn his next badge and then be released. And I don't want that. I don't want Ash with Pokemon like that. I don't care about Serena or Clement, because at least it would be actually new. It would be an experience for them. Ash has already had all of these releases. Butterfree, Lapras, Pidgeot, you know? So why does Ash need any other Pokemon like this? It's already been done to death with Ash, and it's just detrimental to Ash as a character, as a trainer, as a gym battler. It doesn't make sense that you only give him a Pokemon just to overcome an obstacle, and then after that obstacle, that Pokemon gets thrown away like garbage, and that's the way I feel. I feel the writers just tossed Goodra into the garbage and just said, alright, let's move on. We're over that obstacle of the gym battle. Woohoo! Alright, what do you say? Yeah, we did a pretty good gym battle. Alright, okay, so gym battle's over. We don't have to worry about it anymore. Let's just move on. We got rid of Goodra. Alright, so we're going to pick up on the series. We're not going to have any obstacles like that again. We don't need to have Ash capture an Aegislash just to beat Olympia or whatever, or even, yeah, Olympia, or Valerie, because we overpowered them to make it seem like a really fun battle. We don't need to do that anymore. Okay, so let's just go back to mediocrity, you know, let's have Ash's team suffer again, because, you know, I mean, it's fine that Ash is getting Noibat, but compare Noibat to Goodra, and it's like we regressed. It's not like there's any progression, and that's the problem. It's going to take a long time for me to see any sort of progression within the XY anime series as a result of Goodra being released, you know? Um, I mean, there is a calendar, and I'll show you right now, and it has Noibat in it, and it also has Fletchinder, and it is something for September. Fletchinder is still nowhere near close to evolving into a Talonflame. And as far as we know, the same is going to apply to Frogadier. There's not going to be any sometime by September that Ash is going to get a Fletchin or a Talon or a Greninja. And then, because Noibat is also in that calendar image, you know, it's like Ash's team is not going to get any progression until something else fully evolves, and unfortunately it's not looking good, at least for September, which is at least probably 6 months from now. Let's see, it's close to May, so we'll just count it as a full month of May, June, July, August, September, about 5 months. Ash is not going to have any progression whatsoever. You know, it's like, seriously, I would be surprised if Ash even had his final team by September, whatever it may be, whatever the Pokemon is by September. I would be surprised if Ash even had his final Pokemon. So basically, if we ignore Goodra, the only team changes that we got was basically the capture of Noibat. And that's not nothing, you know? And at this particular point, we're already going to hit the 6th gym, and, you know, we're dealt with the same Pokemon that we've already had before. There's nothing new, because if Ash does get Noibat, it's going to be after Valerie at best, unless unless 79 or 80 turns out to be the rematch. But at this particular point, I don't think it would really matter one way or the other, because they were hurrying to rush to Valerie in the first place just so Ash could lose, just to give him a Noibat, which probably wouldn't exactly be very helpful against Valerie anyway, even though I think he can learn like Poison Fang or something, you know. So at least I think Noibat can learn Poison Fang. Noibat does have a defense against fairies, or at least Noivern, and I think that I could have swore it could have learned something other than Stealing, so maybe not. So Noibat would be completely pointless against Valerie anyway. So then, so the problem is Goodra being released just means that basically Ash is only going to have one capture, one team change, basically. Until September. I mean, sure, October, maybe that's when all the fun stuff happens. Fletchinder evolves, or maybe even Fletchinder evolves into September, and the calendar was just saying, hey, this is the last time you guys will see Fletchinder. Maybe, I don't know, but it's not looking good. Ash needed a fully evolved team member by now. You know, Clement, for crying out loud, has a Luxray. And right now, Pikachu is pretty much the only Pokemon that can actually possibly combat Luxray. Frogadier is not going to do anything. Fletchinder is not going to do anything. Hawlucha probably would have the best chance of those two Pokemon. And Noibat, even though Noibat isn't exactly weak against electric types, it's probably not going to last very long against electric type anyway. Because I'm sure neutral damage is probably does a lot of damage, more so than resisted or whatever. So Noibat would wear thin, so it's very disappointing. You know, even Jesse, for crying out loud, is going to get a Gourgeist, you know? At this particular point, you know, Serena's probably going to have an Eevee really soon, and it's probably going to evolve really quickly if Serena does end up with Eevee, so then Ash is still going to be behind everyone else. Anyway, back into the episodes. Like I said, you know, the episodes themselves were fine. From a non-biased perspective, they were okay, but for the overall storyline of the XY series, it was just detrimental. The whole entire concept was detrimental to the series, and there is a mark, in my perspective, in my opinion, of the XY series that the writers cannot erase. and it's their fault for making Goodra pointless and meaningless to begin with. You know, as a fan of the Pokemon series, I want to see these Pokemon for as long as possible. You know, I don't like it, even though I have no say in it. I don't like when the executive producers just toy with the fans and audiences. I don't know if it's to pretend like they know what they're doing in terms of business, you know, and they're trying to make more money, or they're trying to freshen up the series in some fashion so they can make more money, but I just can't see how there is going to be any good from Goodra being released, you know, because I just can't see it. I don't see it, you know. So it's a mark that will never go away, and quite frankly, even Phantump isn't going to change that, because Phantump at this particular point is going to be very pointless and useless because it's likely going to be captured after Olympia, and it's not going to really do anything. And I don't want Phantump to be a league only Pokemon, even though, and it doesn't even look like it could be a league only Pokemon. You know, Phantump is probably going to be like Scraggy. It's only going to be able to take out small opponents, you know? And the difference is Scraggy had a whole long time to come out looking like a pretty powerful Pokemon, but it didn't. It was still a baby on Ash's Unova team, and it didn't seem like it progressed or grew at all, really, except learning Focus Blast, beating a or Vanillish, I believe, and against Bryson and a Darumaka in the leagues, you know? And I don't want that with Phantump. I want Phantump with a lot of development, you know? Phantump is one of the only Pokemon that I would have been okay Ash having and it not evolving. I had to deal with Corphish not evolving. Pikachu, I really couldn't give a crap one way or the other, though. I had to deal with Bulbasaur refusing to evolve, Squirtle unevolved, um, Chikorita, Bayleaf being the only evolution in the second gen. Third gen, Corphish didn't evolve. Grovyle didn't evolve until the Filler Saga. Um, fourth generation, I had to deal with Bulbasaur and Gibble. Gibble was fine, but, or not Bulbasaur. Gibble was fine. I understood that it didn't evolve, and I understood and it was fine, although I really wish it would have ended with Ash evolving Gibble into Goodbye at the very end of everything. But that didn't happen, and, you know, Buizel didn't evolve. And I really liked Ash's Buizel, but I just think Floatzel would have been so cool with Ash, you know, but that didn't happen. Ash only had Buizel. And then fifth generation I had to deal with Oshawott being unevolved and other things. And to try to make this back to relevant to the review, I would be okay with Phantom unevolved, but it's gonna be too late. You know, Ash should have already had Phantump already. Ash should have possibly used Phantump against Valerie. Used against Olympia. Olympia could have been where Phantump would have been the best choice for. A ghost type against a psychic type trainer. And if she had Slow King as well as Meowstic, Phantom would have been perfect. Sure, she could have Sigilif, but hey, you know, someone else would have gotten that. I mean, I would love to see Phantom sweeping Olympia, but that's not going to happen. At best, what we're going to get is a double battle against two Meowstic. You know, Sigilif barely showed up at all in the fifth generation, and even though Sigilif is creepy as all Crazyville or whatever, it still would have been nice to see it. And Ash never really battled a Slow King. Really, I don't. I mean, Conway had a Slow King, I believe, but I don't think Ash really battled Conway's Slow King in the fourth generation, and no other gym leader had Slow King. So now they're just changing it to a double battle. I just don't get it, you know, and so that's why I don't like Goodra being released. No matter how I look at it, Goodra's release is just detrimental to the XY series. You know, and look at the gym battle with Valerie. It might be an interesting and okay battle, but it clearly suffers just after everything that's happened. It's clearly going to suffer just because Ash released Goodra and because Ash really doesn't have anything exciting news. I mean, it's great. If Lechinder is the one that helps earn Ash his fairy badge. Is it a fairy badge? Hold on. Is it the fairy badge? Fairy badge. Fairy badge, yeah. So yeah, Fletchinder helps Ash get his fairy badge. That's great. Good for Fletchinder. It's about time, you know. It probably should have happened against other trainer, a different trainer by now. But hey, Fletchinder, woohoo! You've been in a lot of gyms, dude. So good for you, Fletchinder. But like I said, this just wasn't a good thing for Goodra to be released, you know, and within the battle, within the episodes, you know, they were just pushing so hard. You know, they were just pushing so hard for the idea that Goodra was needed in the wetlands, and that Ash decided Goodra was just going to be released, and bye Goodra, we'll never see you again. Even if we do, it's going to be a complete afterthought because maybe the writers, executive producers realized they made a mistake and they're trying to rectify it. Too little, too late. I don't know what's going to happen, but there's just really nothing to say. I don't like the whole storyline to begin with. Even if we were to take out Team Rocket, I didn't like the storyline of Floor just being a jerk and coming in with a whole bunch of Pokemon and attacking the normal people of the wetlands just so that her little Floette baby or whatever could get healed. You know, it's like, I don't know why Floor just felt it was necessary to do that, resulting in all this that all happened anyway. You know, the episodes were fine, it's just that the storyline just doesn't make any sense to begin with. It only exists for the sole purpose of releasing Goodra. You know, it's not like it's an interesting story. Because then I would have to bring in Team Rocket, and well, no, it wasn't. You know, Team Rocket may have made the conclusion make sense. You know, the resolution between the original wetlands and Florges' army, they may have resolved their differences, mostly because of Team Rocket, and any other wouldn't have made as much sense or wouldn't have worked. But it's what it just comes down. These episodes only exist just to get rid of Goodra. And for that, the episodes... See, if I was to give these episodes a rating, I don't really like doing that because I think the rating scale is just messed up because a lot of people have weird ratings that don't even make any sense because I don't know if they really explain it, but for the episodes themselves, I would probably say that the episodes probably together probably do deserve a 7 out of 10 at least, personally. But as a story for XY and everything that's happened, add a little bit of personal flair into it, I would say probably I would be generous enough to give it a 4 out of 10. Because it shouldn't have existed to begin with. If Ash was going to get a Goomy and Ash was going to get a Goodra, at least have had Goomy being caught 10 episodes after Halucha instead of 20 episodes, I believe is what happened. So 10 episodes. Give Goomy Sagu an additional 10 episodes, then Ash could have had Goodra, used against Clement, and could have kept Goodra. Ash could have caught another Pokemon after Valerie before Olympia, and then that would have been fine, or something of that nature. But it just doesn't work for this series. It was just, I just don't like seeing that. If you really look at it, Goodra only existed just to give Ash that voltage badge. Because Goomy Sagu Goodra did nothing more. Goomy didn't trigger an evolution of another Pokemon because Goomy wasn't really used at all during Luxio's evolution or Fennekin's evolution. There we go. What's the other Pokemon? I'm so scatterbrained right now, but It didn't help Ash capture another Pokemon. All it was used for, all it was ever used for was to help Ash give him his voltage badge. Just beating Clement. That's pretty much it. That's the only purpose Goodra served on the XY series, and I don't like that. I don't like a Pokemon that's only used for that purpose. Just because the writers could not come up with another way to overcome the obstacle that is the Battle of the Bros, as some people would say. I mean, I don't really say that, but I have nothing against it. But Battle of the Bros, Ash versus Clement, it was the only way that they could overcome the obstacle. And if you look at it like that, this whole entire Goodra arc basically is just bad writing. You know, because it is. If in terms of writing a storyline or whatever, if all you're going to do is you're going to create a character that is only going to overcome a certain obstacle because the writers are too lazy or too stupid to come up with a different way to overcome that obstacle, and then after that obstacle is over, then that character pretty much dies and becomes meaningless and pointless, then I think it's bad writing. I mean, there are a lot of characters in a lot of TV shows that were only supposed to be there for one particular instance, or maybe they were supposed to have them be in multiple episodes, but something happens and that one-time guest character ends up being a regular, recurring character, or even a main character, maybe because people like it. And then there are some people who are meant to have serious roles within a show, but something doesn't work out, and then they just completely get rid of that particular character. So, I mean, there's just very few things that I can actually say about the episodes. Like I said, the ending to 69 was awesome because that was the most action-packed thing ever. I mean, the window breaks, Pikachu, Dedenne, Wooper just swooped through or swallowed through the window, and then Ash jumps through the window and goes, Pikachu, Dedenne, Woopa, and then it just freezes and Ash is in scene. That you'll see at least the end part of that in one of the pictures, but that was epic. That was the most action-packed thing that I've ever seen in a Pokemon series because it was just such a cool way to end an episode. But outside of there was really nothing that I can get into. Hey, at least the writer of the second episode, if it wasn't the same as the first one, remember that Ash did have a Frogadier. Because, yeah, that was a little disappointing. That's one of the bad things about 69 is that in the lunch scene, Frogadier and Luxray were not seen at all. And maybe Luxray wouldn't have mattered, but Frogadier? That's kind of a weird thing, because can't see why. Because if I remember correctly, Frogadier, of all of Ash's Pokemon except Pikachu for obvious reasons, actually probably had more interaction with Goomy, Sliggoo, and Goodra than any of other Ash's Pokemon. Well, except in the gym battle with Hawlucha, but I don't think Goodra actually interacted with Hawlucha in that episode. But remember, Frogadier was there when it watched Goomy evolve into Sliggoo, so I think there was more of an interaction between Goomy, Sliggoo, and Goodra with Frogadier. So it's a little interesting that in the first part, Frogadier was completely ignored in the lunch scene. I mean, I don't understand that. I don't know if they have like some sort of budgeting issues where if those Pokemon appeared, they had to use their voice actors and they had to be paid, or there just wasn't enough money to animate this particular Frogadier and Luxray into the thing. But it's pretty weird. So, like I said, there's really nothing that I could say about the episodes outside of the overall storyline of the XY series in relation to Goodra being released. I mean, the episodes, I just didn't care. I mean, it was nice that after Ash recovered from falling out of the Team Rocket ship, I guess, the flying, I don't know what you want to call it, airship or whatever, and they landed with the help of Kenzo using the water Pokemon. He used water gun to lower the descent of Ash and the other Pokemon, but you know, it's oh, and then Serena comes up and puts her hands on Ash's shoulders. You know, that was a nice touching moment, but there was really nothing else. I mean, hey, other mention, it was really interesting to see Clement being curious about what Pokemon within the wetlands could actually use Shadow Ball and Psybeam, and then with the help of Kenzo finding out that it was Team Rocket that was responsible for the attack on Goodra, which resulted in Goodra resting in Kenzo's cabin or whatever, but otherwise there just really wasn't anything here to talk about, you know? I mean, honestly, regardless, I don't really care about Florges or Floette. Yes, Florges is my favorite fairy-type Pokemon, but and it was the blue kind, my favorite, but I just didn't care. I mean, I will admit it was really nice to see Floette grabbing Florges' hand and Goodra, and then just having it as, and Floette was like a pretty much an olive branch between the two sides, and they resolved their differences and became better. They became compatriots or friends or neighbors or something of that nature. So that was nice, but as for the episodes themselves, there just really isn't a lot to talk about outside of what I've already said. So yeah, that's why I added all that other stuff in there, because it's primarily what these episodes are about. You know, about the overall series of the XY and how releasing Goodra just makes Goodra pointless and meaningless. You know, it's just honestly looking back, Goodra is probably one of the few Pokemon that I can say that probably would have been better off if it just never existed. I hate saying that. I like Goodra. Goodra is an awesome Pokemon, but when it became meaningless because it was released and only existed to help Ash get that voltage badge, it just would have been better off if Ash never had it in the first place. Because why go through all of that for some pointless, meaningless release that makes the Pokemon meaningless and pointless afterwards, you know? So, sorry, that's just how I feel, you know? I wish I could overlook it and think that it's good writing, but it's not, you know? It could have been any other Pokemon. Phantump, you know? Phantump could have helped against Heliolisk. I think Phantump would have been great against Heliolisk. Phantump would have won, you know? Luxray's Swift Attack would have been useless against Phantump. And while Phantump may have not been the one who beat Clement's Luxray and got the badge, Phantump would have definitely contributed, and then maybe Hawlucha could have beaten Luxray. That would have been cool to see. Because then at least Phantump probably would have stayed on the team, since it would have evolved. No matter what, I don't like releases. Even if it's after the league, I just don't like Pidgeotto evolving into Pidgeot. I mean, come on. Pidgeotto could have evolved before that particular episode if it was just going to be released, you know? Or it didn't matter anyway. Ash's Pidgeotto didn't need to evolve. I just don't like Pokemon like that. And the thing is, it's actually worse with Pidgeotto, because Pidgeotto really did not help Ash at all, for the most part, throughout the series. Gumi, Sliggoo, Goodra, as well as mostly Goodra, I think contributed to Ash in general more so than Pidgeotto did. I mean, Pidgeotto was at least loyal to Ash, as is Goodra, but you know, I just don't like meaningless and pointless Pokemon being on Ash. I'm not saying that they have to be battle machines with no personality. That is not what I'm saying at all. But I do not want meaningless, pointless Pokemon that only exist to overcome a single obstacle and is thrown away into the garbage as an afterthought. What can we do to overcome this obstacle? We'll do this. And then to get rid of that, we'll do this, and then we'll just move on as if that obstacle never existed to begin with, you know? Because at this particular point, I don't care if Ash beat Clement at all, you know? It was a great gym battle, but releasing Goodra just, it's like, so what? But, sure, the emotional scene, Farewell, was really great and touching, you know? You got all teary-eyed, but I was probably more upset that it was happening to begin with than it actually being emotional. So I just I just don't know. So this is just one of the aspects of XY that I just wish that I could forget, because it's basically what it is. Goodra may have made an impact on me, but it just became pointless and meaningless, so therefore any impact Goodra had on, but that impact is meaningless and pointless now, and in the end it just doesn't matter. I just don't know anymore. But anyway, don't worry, I'm still going to continue watching, and I will try to enjoy whatever comes my way. All I know is that I just have a feeling that the writers severely dropped the ball on this one. 6th gen was starting to look like it was going to be a really cool generation, you know, and it was going to probably have a great ending, but now it seems that they just can't keep up the interesting aspects of the series, so what they do is they just fizzle out, and I honestly expect that. I don't expect I'll honestly be surprised if Fash does get Noibat, that he gets Greninja and Talonflame with Noivern and whatever his last Pokemon it is, if it can remains unevolved. I'll be surprised if that even happens. Right now, I just think the writers just gave up on the 6th series, because that's what it seems like. You know, it's like the moment they released Goodra, it's like they just stopped caring about the series. You know, I feel like, oh hey, we have this great idea, but then, you know, so even if Noibat is caught by Ash and then does evolve into Noivern, and Noivern has like Draco Meteor or even Outrage or something, it'll be a cool Pokemon. It'll be awesome to see Ash with a Noivern, but it's just, maybe Ash should have just caught Noibat instead of Goodra to begin with, and then maybe Noibat could have been close to evolving by now or whatever, and then we would have had at least Noivern, and Ash would have used Noivern, and whatever the case may have been. But it's too little too late now. So since I only have about a few minutes left before Windows Movie Maker decides to cut my webcam, because 1 hour is the max it can ever do for whatever reason, can't just keep going, or at least stop it and save it and then continue to record, but whatever. So this concludes the Mega Review. Sorry I didn't talk too much about the episodes, but there wasn't really much to say really outside of my thoughts on Goodra being released and everything that came as a result of that. So what are your thoughts of the episodes? Tell me in the comment section. And so thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video, probably while it's away from here. You'll see another Pokemon video, so I have to focus on my gaming content for now, but I'll get back to Pokemon if there's any new information. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.